Welcome, everyone. This is the second event of a three-part series. Thanks to all who showed up on Monday. This is our Holocaust Remembrance series as a member of the Center for Peace, Justice, and Reconciliation. We have a list of all our events on our website, bergen.edu/PJR for Peace, Justice, and Reconciliation. Not only these Holocaust events, but there's Armenian genocide events, there's Veterans of War series. There's too many to go through here, so please visit the site. And thanks to our sponsors within Bergen and beyond for the cookies, the coffee, and just to support our programming, including the New Jersey State Commission on Holocaust Education. I am a member of the Center for Peace Justice team. I'm one of 7 members. I also started a speakers bureau for the purpose of going out to high schools and other organizations to give speeches. I myself am a daughter of survivors and a niece of survivors. I go out and I talk about my father and my mother's own hidden in France stories. So I'm very interested in hearing Simon's stories. My parents were teenagers, but older than Simon. They were 17, 18. And I go to high schools and I share the stories. I share my uncle's story, my mother's story, my father's story. It's up to me to continue their voices because they're no longer here. But we are very fortunate to have a survivor who's here to tell his story. So I don't want to waste any more time. I want to invite Simon Jeruchim to speak.
Good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day today. A little bit cold, but you know, when it's sunny and beautiful, who wants to hear about sad stories? And I was thinking of that on my way here. But the question I always ask myself really is that, is there any benefit added for me to talk about my experiences? I don't know, to be very honest. But I do know that it's very important to remind people that the Holocaust really happened, because there are some deniers, not among you, I'm sure. But there are some people who feel that maybe this was just a hoax. And you hear it, you know, there's more anti-Semitism today in the world. And I was reminded of, maybe you've seen that clip of Eisenhower visiting the concentration camps in Germany. And he said, let's take pictures of everything, because one of these days there will be some SOB who will say that it never happened. And I want those pictures to prove to the contrary. So it did happen. But you know what is interesting about myself is that I know you're looking at me as a Holocaust survivor, but I never felt that that applied to me. And the reason for it is that I was a hidden child during the war, and I survived. And I felt as a survivor, I just felt I was alive. So why would I think I'm a survivor when all the other victims who died in concentration camp under horrible conditions, I didn't even have the right to express anything, because I was so lucky I was still around. So I had to struggle with that notion of being a survivor for many years. And it was not until, believe it or not, when I was 61 years old. Today I'm 89 years old. 89 and 4 months, to be precise. Especially at my age, you have to count the months, no. You know. In 1961, and I know this is departing from my talk a little bit, but it's important I should say that, there were a group of survivors like myself, or they would be what they call hidden children, during the war, who felt that it was important to have a gathering of people like themselves and sort of confront their past together with others. And so there was a convention actually in May of 1991 in a Marriott Hotel in Times Square, New York. And there was a gathering of about a couple thousand people who came from every corner of the world, from Australia to Israel to the US and so on, France. And I was reluctant to go there. My wife, by the way, is also a survivor from Belgium. So I did come with my family, my brother and my sister, who had survived the war. And I didn't know what to expect, really. I said, well, why would I want to come in the first place? But there were such a compelling speakers. Among others, there was Elie Wiesel. And what came from it was that the feeling that myself and everybody else had an obligation to testify to the events of the war the way we saw it, because after us, there's nobody else left. And that was the first time in my life, really, that I really cried. I was crying for the child I had been, not for myself today, of course. I sort of gave myself permission to cry, in a way. And I don't know whether how cathartic it was for me or not, but it was the beginning of a start for me to feel, yes, I did go through experiences that were very difficult. And not because I should be complaining, but at least I should acknowledge it. And I never wanted to acknowledge my experiences. I never spoke to my best friends about my experiences of the war. I never did. Yes, I said, well, I was in France during the war, but I just stopped right there. And I also didn't want to talk to anyone about my experiences of being drafted when I came to the US and winding up in a combat unit in Korea, where I spent 21 months. So there were experiences of my life, which was life and death type of thing, which I kind of blocked out in a way. I was aware of them, I never forgot them, but to express them in the public would never occur to me to do like I do it today. So I'm like on two different levels. On one level, as you can see, I'm very open. I can talk to you very freely. On the other hand, the pain is still there about the loss of my parents and my family. So, I was born in Paris, in France, and I have a sister who was 2 years, she's still alive, 2 years older than me, and a brother 7 years younger than me. And my parents came from Poland, but not from shtetls, like, with the fiddler on the roof, that wasn't the case, And I think I had the best parents in the world that one can have. Of course, don't forget I was young. So I was not at the age of rebellion yet, And I had the amazing fortune to be with my parents during the occupation until 1942. And see how they handled the stress of occupation. That amazing amount of fortitude. It wasn't something that lecturers who said, be strong. They don't use such words. I just saw by the actions that they were positive people, they were hopeful, they were optimistic, they looked at life with passion, and that infused me as a child with their feelings that I still have today. So today I think I'm the most happy person in the world to have been actually gifted such a parents. My mother was the most cheerful person in the world. She loved to sing, and she had been a governess in Warsaw at a young age, and she became passionate about operas. So, in the house, she was always humming, actually, arias from operas. But I wasn't sure whether it was Jewish or it was something else. So my sister said, no, this is from operas. And I said, oh, okay, And my father was a very strong individual, very, attentive to detail, because he was a watchmaker, and a lot of dexterity and patience, which I really got from him. And he loved actually outing, sports, bicycling, which wasn't really a typical Jewish person at that time, because they would usually wear a vest But this is the kind of thing. So I spent a lot of time with my dad also. And these couple of years in my childhood were colored by the feeling that it was just wonderful to be around. And so all this perspective of having still my parents, they and they were, and they still are, my moral compass in a way. This is the way I wanted to view my life, through the lens of my memories of them. And this is why I feel that today, the lesson I've learned, not by what they told me, but the way they were, is something that I want to be able to convey to other people. My mother was an extremely generous person, and I feel that I need to be generous like she was. So, again, I said I had a wonderful childhood, and I didn't know much really about what happened in the world, about Hitler, about Nazis, because then you have to understand, we didn't have, let's say, 27, I mean, every week, we were bombarded with news or newspaper. There were very few news really about the outside world, especially for kids at the time. So I heard about Hitler because my parents would speak about Hitler and the threat of Germany and everything else. But it just didn't make too much sense to me, really, And I didn't know about the fact that there was World War I and all that, and the German, and they used gas against the French people, that sort of thing. So there was that hatred of the German from the French people. About anti-Semitism, I didn't know anything about it. My parents were not religious. They came from religious homes, you can be sure, coming from Poland. But in France, particularly in Paris, it was a very liberal climate to live with. And they wanted to assimilate. My father was a socialist. So the only kind of vestiges of Jewish life, so to speak, my mother was kind of kosher, She kept kosher, didn't mix actually meat and milk type of thing, I didn't know why, but that's the way it was, And for Passover, for Pesach, she would actually buy a carp and she would make the filter fish, And I was horrified when she would cut, the carp's head, I thought she was so cruel, But, so I lived in this kind of bubble of happiness type of thing. I was always very gifted in art, very precocious artist. I didn't really know I was, truly. I enjoyed the medium of doing it, but it wasn't like today when parents watch their child and they do 2 straight lines and they think it's a new Picasso, I don't remember my parents praising me for my drawings, even though they were on the kitchen wall, type of thing. And so 1940, of course, we had war with Germany. And for the next 6 months, there was a lot of disruption in my life because everybody fled from Paris. There was panic when the Germans invaded France. And my sister, my father and I were separated from my mother and my brother for about 6 months while we were on the roads fleeing away from the invading forces. And in the process, we actually were strafed by German aircraft and that sort of thing, and we survived. So the occupation, we came back and we lived actually in Montreuil, which is like a close suburb of Paris. With the metro line, you can go right there, very close. And we lived in a very lovely apartment house. It was brand new, actually. And there was a beautiful bathroom. And the reason I'm telling you that, because French people were never strong on bathrooms or plumbing, So we lived in a very nice way. We were not rich, really, but, we went to the shore for the summer type of thing. So my father did a very good living, really, And so we lived in a mostly Gentile neighborhood, really. And France at the time, 98% was really Catholic. So people did not mention religion. If you live in a church, you don't talk about religion. And so I didn't have that feeling of identity as a Jew. I knew my parents were foreigners because they had an accent, like I have a little bit today. So, but outside of that, I didn't think much of it. They spoke Yiddish, they spoke German, they spoke Polish, they spoke everything. Once we got to understand some Polish, they switched to German or Russian, They were always one step ahead of us. So then, of course, in 1940, immediately after the Germans arrived, and you probably read in the history book, and not here, as a history professor, it would be good to know really the parameters of what happened. But suffice to say that they started to have repressions against the Jews. What the repressions were, they were handled by the French police, basically. There were actually notification through posters in the street. It wasn't like we got something in the mail. They didn't do that. So it would say, well, according to the new decree by the French police now, Jews are not allowed to have any radios in the house or own bicycles or own a car. All that has to be really brought to the police, unless you have penalty or jail, etc. So this repression increased very quickly through 1941 to 42. There was rationing for everybody because most food was actually given to the German troops. So it wasn't just the Jews who were impacted, the general population was. But the fact is that as Jews, we had a curfew, and you had to be really, after I think 6 o'clock, you had to really be not able to be out. So by that time, if you want to go shopping, there'd be nothing left in the store. You'd be the last one. You know. So things were very difficult. But even through all this struggle of, feeding our family, my mother was still this happy camper type of person, which was really wonderful. And then in early 1942, this is where it was decreed that Jews should be wearing a Jewish Star of David sewn on their clothing. And believe it or not, you had to pick it up at the local police precinct, but you had to buy the stars. They were not given to you. And as a kid, I loved to read every little detail on everything, I used to read the back of matchbooks, So my mother came back with a set of instructions from the police that told you how many stitches to sew the star. And the French were very, they love detail, oriented, So this was the climate at the time. And of course, I went to school. I was the only kid in my class, really. I think there was just another kid, maybe in the whole school. So of course, going to school, I was ashamed, I have to say. I would put books in front of my star, but then you cannot do that all the time, So there were some kids whose parents probably hated Jews, said, dirty kites, that kind of thing. Nobody beat me up or anything, but they cursed me, type of thing, But, it was hard for me to accept it because I never went to synagogue with my parents. We did not observe holidays. So I didn't feel this identification of being a Jew and not understand why there was such a deep hatred for Jews, So here there are a couple of dates in my life that I will never forget. And with my kind of ability as an artist, my visual ability to remember details, I can see really like, looking at you today, that I can see the moments when those things happened, which is a little bit frightening, It's a little bit frightening to see things with such a clarity. In a way, it's wonderful. On the other hand, it's not so wonderful. And this moment that I'm telling you about was actually July 16, 1942. Why do I remember that date precisely? It's because the 14th of July in France is actually the national holiday. It's called Bastille Day, like the 4th of July in the US. And the Germans decided they wanted to arrest all the Jews of Paris and the surrounding area because that's where there was a huge concentration. These were the orders. And the Vichy government, which was actually a puppet head called Pétain, had ordered, it wasn't ordered by the Nazi at that moment, he said he wanted to have men, women, children, everybody arrested. The Germans only required men to be arrested at that time. In any event, so it was July 14, and my sister and I were finished with school, and we both were rejoicing that it was over. No more schoolwork, no more homework, We were good students, but who cared for homework, Not so much fun. So even though we knew we were not going to go to a vacation, still, when you're a kid, you look at life through different lens, And so the next day, the 15th of July, My mother has an appointment at a dentist. It just happened that she had an appointment in Paris. So she took the metro, she went to a dentist, and the dentist said, you know, Madame Jeruchim, I heard through one of my patients, who is a cop, that something really big is happening, and they're setting up a roundup, a major roundup in Paris for the 16th, the night of the 16th. Now, there were roundups already in Paris, but there were more sort of minor roundups, so to speak. And also the fact that men, Jewish people, we all had to wear, we all had an identification card on which it was a J stamped on it in red for Jew. So when people would travel by bus or metro or other means of transportation, the police, plainclothesmen, could come up and ask for your identification card. And of course, if they saw that you were Jew, you'd be arrested. But at that point, my father had not been arrested because he worked at home, everything else. So we still had hope. And my mother, actually, we had a couple of friends who we were very close to in Paris, and my mother went to them. She said, you know, I just heard something about this big roundup, and I'm sure in Paris, it may not be in a suburb like where we live, we were more isolated. Won't you come over and spend the night or a couple of days with us, you know? They had a son, a little bit older than me, so they came to visit us, and I was surprised they would come. And my mother, we were all gathered in the dining room. I remember my mother was talking to my father, everything else. She told her a story. So I remember my father, they spoke in Yiddish a lot. I remember my father was skeptical, you know, and he kept on saying, for those who know Yiddish, the word was bubemeinses. It means like old wives' tale. Yeah, I'm not sure this really would be happening, but my mother was a very decisive woman, you know, very strong woman. She said, well, let's not take a chance. So she went in a neighborhood where we have a cleaning woman, she did the cleaning for us, and she really begged her really for having us spend the night in she had like a small bungalow, and she agreed, she consented, and we spent that night actually in that bungalow. We did not sleep on the bed, we just sat on the floor. And in the early afternoon of the next day, I was delegated, actually I took off my Jewish scarf, my shirt, it was a warm day, I remember, and I went up to the apartment building where we lived, and I rang the doorbell, and the concierge came out, and she said, oh, my poor child, don't spend another minute here, you may be in danger, because during the night, the French police came, and there were two other Jewish families in our building that were both arrested. And she said, I still remember during the night when there was the city bus parked outside the building with all these children crying and everything else, you know, who were arrested with the police, you know. And the French police said to her, don't worry, we'll grab those kikes, you know, we'll be around again, you know. The thing that most people are not aware of is that the French police really did the dirty work of the Germans. And they lived their life with impunity thereafter. It was only like in the 1990s when the French President Chirac said that what happened at that time was a stain on the character of the French Republic. And he owned up to what happened. In the meantime, there were 14,000 Jews arrested during that night, and the French police had orders of shoot to kill for anyone who tried to escape. That would include the child, didn't matter. Now, all those who were arrested wound up in Auschwitz very quickly after that. So, okay, so here we are. We escaped, but we cannot go back to our apartment. Where to go? So, thanks to my mom, who was so lovely person, you know, friendly. She made a lot of friends in the neighborhood, store owners, and she begged them to let us stay in the back room for a night at least at a time, in the back room. Some did. But this was not a good situation, no matter what. And I remember going from one place to another. And my brother would cry, he was 5 years old, you know, he didn't know why we had to be sitting for hours on that way, on the floor. And then there was a miracle, and I use that word miracle rather often, because I don't know the explanation really of how things work out. Yeah, my mother's best friend owned a pharmacy in the neighborhood, and the owner of the pharmacy was talking to one of the customer, telling the story, you know, I know this couple with 3 children, lovely family, I know what's going to be happening of them, you know, I cannot help them out. And that client, a woman, said, you know me for a while, you know I could be trusted, and we can help. Now this was just like that, it just happened just like that. Imagine that. He said, why don't you have those people come to see me, my husband, and we'll help them out. Incredible. Now because at that time, if you helped Jews, and if it was known, the police would find out that you were helping Jews, you would be arrested immediately. And if, let's say, they would be handed out to the Gestapo, to the German authority, you'll be deported. That's it. If not shot. To make an example to the neighbors. It was that cruel. So anyway, so we went there like in small groups. We didn't want to be all of us together. And this is the month of July still. It's just a week after that date I was telling you, July 16, maybe July 26. It was again a very warm summer, I remember that, you know. I was wearing a little shirt, short pants, you know. That was a tradition with kids in France. You didn't have jeans, you wore short pants, you know. And so we get to that very lovely little cottage, like a little house, you know. And we met the owners, you know, Madame and Monsieur Bonneau, that was their name, and their daughter Madeleine. And I would say they were a couple in their maybe late 50s, you know, maybe early 60s. But they looked very old to me, but everybody did look old to me. When you're 12 years old, everybody looks old. So he was a very distinguished looking man, like a professor, bold, but very elegant, you know. And he was talking to my mom, my parents were talking to him, to his wife, and we all milling around in that little parlor. It wasn't really a living room, you know. And there was a sense of anxiety that I had. I just didn't know what was happening really. I knew what was happening, but not really. But I do remember that I was listening to my mother talking to Monsieur Bonneau at one point in their conversation. And she said to Monsieur Bonneau, promise me that if something ever happens to me and my husband, that you would actually take care of them and promise to send them to school so they'll have an education. Now imagine for a moment that you're going to really handle your children to strangers, and all you want to know if they're going to go to school. It wasn't like she said, well, promise they'll be clothes, they're going to have a roof over their head, there is some food to eat. No, it was none of that I heard anywhere. Because education always has been something very important for Jewish people. And that was always stressed to me growing up, that you need to learn, you need to go to school, take it seriously. But at that moment, there were so many things happening, and what I didn't realize truly at that moment, that the plan was, and these people actually were connected to the underground, and they already had arranged to place my brother, my sister, me, and the other boy in different places outside of Paris, in Normandy, where we could be in safe places with families or some other place. And this is the way it happened. So I'm going to shorten the story because there's many more details, but suffice to say that on that particular day, which would have been the end of July, and I left that house, and I turned around, I saw my mother and my father looking through the window, actually. I waved. I don't remember if we hugged or we kissed, or I don't remember that. But that was the last time I ever saw them. What I did not know is that 2 months later, it took me almost 50 years to find out that 2 months later, they were gassed in Auschwitz, captured by the French police. So here I'm winding up, my brother's going one place in Normandy with people who knew he was Jewish, and the other time he was 5 years old. And it was a family with one son, and they took care of him. They were amazing people. Me and my sister were sent to a place in Normandy, not too far actually from where you had the liberation D-Days, which was to be actually towards Omaha Beach in that section of France. And we were sent to farms. And the idea, the concept was that we were, of course, we were provisions. We needed a place because we had no food. And we kind of would work in exchange for food and maybe some money. But we would have to work hard, and we were Christians, like they were, and nobody should ever know we were Jews. And this was my experience during about 2.5 years of the war, where I was actually under miserable circumstances, but I was not under barbed wires, I wasn't beaten up. Just physically, I was actually a difficult place because I was not a big strapping boy. I was about 12 and a half at the time, and I was getting chores like for an adult. I had to work from morning to night. There was no gas, no electricity. They were poor farmers, actually. I slept in a barn. It was very cold there. There was no real mattress or anything. You know, it was just like a canvas to sleep on, and there were rodents and everything else, you know. Then I had very heavy chores to do around, you know, and it was cold. I didn't have any clothing because when I left Paris, I left with what I had on my back, basically. So I didn't have a coat, I didn't have gloves, I didn't have a hat. Later on, I didn't have socks either. So I was wearing wooden clogs that were ill-fitting. They were actually adult clogs. So I had to put in some straw in it so I wouldn't fall, you know. So I would walk a little bit like Charlie Chaplin with my clogs, you know, just to hold my balance. Life was difficult. It wasn't like I was totally malnourished or anything, because after all, it was a farm, you know. So in the farm, there was some food, you know. But at one point, because it was not really, I mean, a good diet in a way, the way you ate, it was mostly pork and bread type of thing. I developed like a rash, like poison ivy, you would think, but it was something different that covered my body. And I think I would have died from it, really. I was covered completely. But anyway, they didn't have any doctors there or anyone. But there was a convent nearby. So one of the neighbor said, well, no, maybe we could send him to the convent, and maybe they could help him out. They've got not a hospital, but some nuns know about something about maybe first aid or that sort of thing. So I went there, and I remember that there was like some young children in some beds. It was not like a hospital wing, but there were beds for children. So I remember there were 2 nuns who told me to go into a bucket of water, to stand there and to get undressed totally. And then they started to scrub me with house brushes until I bled completely. But then they put some mud on top of me, it looked like mud, like brown paste. And they wrapped me around like a mummy, you know, from head to toe. And I would say 2 weeks later, I was okay, you know, thanks to the intervention. So I remember that, of course, I was always desirous to draw or things like that, and asked for if there was a piece of paper and a pencil. So I did portraits of some of the nuns. And they were pretty amazed. You know, usually they think, oh, that would be some scribbles or something. And then I was asked to see the Mother Superior, I remember. I was a little bit afraid because I realized that they knew I was Jewish because I was circumcised. And it would have been easy for somebody to say, you know, hey, this is a Jewish kid, you know? So I made a portrait of the Mother Superior of the convent, and she liked it very much. And some years later, as I was hitchhiking in that region of Normandy, I happened to be just a mile away from the convent with a friend of mine. I said, we've got to stop, you know. So we stopped there, and Mother Superior was still there. She didn't remember me because I was a little bit older by then. But then I saw her portrait hanging next to her desk, you know. So I was telling her the story, you know. And I did ask her, I said, did you know I was Jewish? She said, yes, I knew. She said, you know. So there was some compassion here and there, even though there was fierce anti-Semitism. So I did see my sister for once in a while because we were not that far away from each other, like maybe 3-4 miles. But at the time we had chores to do, so we were not allowed to see each other that often. So to say that in a miserable life there, of course, I was feeling a sense of loneliness, also fear that the police could have wind that there was some foreign kids here from Paris and maybe investigate. And you know, the police would do it. They would ask if you're a boy, drop your pants. That's it. They know exactly who you were. You know, it was that simple. And if you were arrested, you would be handled to the Germans and then sent out to the concentration camps. Now you have to understand at the time, I did not know there were death camps. I knew actually there were labor camps. We knew that. But no one knew really about the existence of the death camps. That we would learn much later, you know. So I still had hope in my heart that my parents had managed somehow to be somewhere and to be alive. This is what I nurtured in my heart. And I said, I've got to be strong for them. Because, you know, from one day to the other, I was 12 and became like 30 years old. You understood that you no longer could complain. You got to be a good person. You should never give a reason for people to be unhappy with you, because that could lead them to really say something. So everything that was demanded of me, I just did. I never complained ever. And I did not feel sorry for myself either, in the sense that I knew that life was harsh elsewhere. And somehow, I don't know how I figured it out at an early age, that I wanted to make my parents proud of me. And this is the way I viewed the world, basically, you know. But one thing which is interesting is that art was for me always such a solace. I loved to draw, but I didn't have anything. And one day I met the village teacher, who was probably not much older than me, you know, probably 20 years old. Because most of the teachers had been drafted. They were either prisoners in Germany, so they were only young people around. So I was talking to him about one thing or another, and then I mentioned that I love art. And he gave me a watercolor set and a pad and some brushes. It belonged to an uncle, he said. He said, oh yeah, my uncle, he thought he was an artist. Believe me, he wasn't an artist. You could do better than him. So anyway, I started to do some watercolors. Nothing particularly special, just of the things that were around me, where I lived, the houses, the church, and so on. And I saved all those drawings, those watercolors, for years, because, you know, there was something from my childhood, you know. I didn't think they were important or anything, they were in a folder. Years later, the Holocaust Museum, maybe like 15 years ago, they wanted to have a special exhibit of the hidden children. And they want some artifacts of the war. Of course, I didn't have any photograph, everything was lost. So I said, well, I wrote to them, I said, look, here's some samples of drawing, but they don't reflect the Holocaust, they're not sad watercolors, that sort of thing, you know. So the curator of the Holocaust Museum in Washington called me and she said, well, do you have any more than that? I said, yes, I have a whole, you know, book. She said, is that possible you would donate them to the museum? So I said, yeah. She said, well, what about your children? Oh, my children, there's so many paintings of mine. They've seen them, but they don't care. So she came over, the curator, and she said, oh, she's flabbergasted with this in such good shape, you know? They were colorful. And I said, how is that possible? Because they were not acid-free paper at the time, you know? Like today, they fade, you know, then. But now, for some reason, I don't know what it was, the colors stayed the same. So she took them to Washington and during the exhibit, the thing in the exhibition, and they took one of the artwork that I have there, next to the food that you see, which is a bus. And it's a very funny bus because I was always dreaming to come to New York, America. To me, when I was a kid, the United States was like an amazing place, you know, like the El Dorado, you know. So I took the bus, I put wings on it, and on it I said Paris, New York. And it was the year 2000, I figured, you know, 1943, year 2000, you know. Little would I know that I would be in the United States one of the day, you know, before that day. And one day I was taking a flight an American airline, and then a reprint of the Airbus. And they said, this is from a kid who saw the Airbus before we did. So anyway, so the liberation takes place in France. It's 1944. And we didn't know very much about the course of the war because radios were confiscated. If you had a radio, you could be shot. That was really what it was. The lucky thing was where I lived, there were very few German soldiers because where we were, there was no particular interest for German troops to be there. There were some, not too far, but not in a small hamlet where we were. So for me, I hardly saw any German, except a few instances where some planes were shot over the channel, English aircraft, and they fell near the farm where I was, and the German came around. And other time when German came to arrest my neighbor's son because they needed labor, and anybody who was over 16 had to go to work in Germany. But outside of that, I never really saw the presence of German soldiers. But I was always afraid of the French police. Luckily, there were not many French police in that area either. So 1944 comes around, and of course, we all know D-Day and so on. But we had a neighbor with a shortwave radio, and he was listening to the BBC, and he heard about the fact that there was a landing. But we couldn't really believe it. It sounded too preposterous, because there was such a powerful German machine, particularly where we were. There were over 100,000 German troops in Normandy, near the coastline especially. So from that time on, which would be about a couple of months from the time they landed, 6th of June, it took exactly 2 months to cover 35 miles to liberate where I was. The reason is because there was such intense fighting, and the Germans had come back with tanks and everything else. So from my vantage point where I was, I saw the bombing of nearby towns and everything else. And we had bombs actually that dropped from the German aircraft as well, American aircraft, I should say. So there were people who died under those circumstances. So things were very difficult, and also the artillery duel in between the German and the American. So there was a lot of battle, and a lot of French people died under the fire during that time. But the second date I was alluding to, there are several dates in my life that I'll never forget, was actually August the 6th, 1944. Still remember that. So in the back of the farm, and I have a basket, and I'm filling the basket with dandelions, because rabbits love dandelions. I don't know if you know that, not important. And I'm there walking the field. At the end of the field, there's an American patrol with their rifle at the ready. They're spread out, and of course they knew they were American, they were not German soldiers. And my heart leaped out of my mouth. I could not believe they were American. It was because we didn't know if the Americans were going to come to liberate us. It seemed like an impossible dream, really. So they're walking across the field, and I'm there, I'm almost like frozen inside. And they come forward, and one of the squad leaders beckons me to come forward. So I go forward, and I'm here, like almost like crying. And that's when I was afraid of them. It wasn't, it was tears of joy. So one of the American soldiers takes his canteen out of his belt and puts it upside down, opens it up to show it's empty, So I said, in French, but in English, I said, vous voulez boire quelque chose? So they all said, a chorus, so funny. They said, oui, oui, That much they knew, So I said, follow me, So we go to the farm, which was a couple of yards from there. And they were thirsty. So in France, they don't drink water. They drink either wine or cider, which was actually normally the cider. So before they could do that, in France, the custom in the countryside is to kiss everybody on both cheeks, and then you handshake. That takes forever. So this floor. Okay, I'm sorry. You could not hear me. So it took forever to be served some cider, and of course, the farmers made them some fried eggs and everything else, and they gave us some chocolate and chewing gum, and some cigarettes for the men, and the whole thing, you know. And this was a very important moment for me, and I was thinking that I was admiring them so much. It must have been young guys, you know. They could have, who knows, they could have been 18 years old, you know. But, you know, they were tall and strong, strapping guys, you know. They exuded all that strength, you know, and I was looking at them and such admiration, you know. I was saying to myself, if I could be one of those guys, you know, just the idea of being part of being an American. And of course the saying said, be careful what you wish for, you know. 7 years later, I'm in an American uniform, and I'm in a combat zone in Korea, you know. But, so this was the thing. So we came back so what happened is, I got a letter from the Bono, Michel Bono, saying to me, look, when transportation is available, because everything was disrupted, we'll come and pick you up. And of course, you know, things were crazy at that moment, you know, there was still fighting everywhere. But I just couldn't wait to go back to Paris, and not because I was miserable, it's just simply that I want to go back and maybe see my parents. I was thinking, and, you know, in a childish way, I thought, well, maybe my parents are back in Paris, who knows, you know? So I said to my sister, could I take your bicycle? I want to go back to Paris. She said, are you crazy? She said, you have no money, nothing. It's 200 miles, you know? I said, okay, but it's only 200 miles, you know? So I took a bike, and the only thing I had with me was some bread, a loaf of bread, and some pork, good enough for one day, and my drawings that you see there. And I went on my way. So of course you could not take the regular roads because it was full of convoys, American soldiers. So I had to take these byways and everything else, you know. And so for the next 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, I was sleeping in barns and exchanging food for work type of thing, you know. Sometimes I slept outside because I couldn't find a place. And I had water at the wells, you know, type of thing. And somehow I made my way back to Paris, you know. And of course they were very astonished that I was back to Buenos and all that. So they were very angry at me, you know, but they were not, you know. And so then my sister was reunited later on because she was still in the farm. In the meantime, during the war, I had been actually pretending I was a Catholic, which I had not mentioned that. I went to church every Sunday. So for me, Christianity was kind of a mystery in a way. I was very intrigued because the church where I was beautiful, beautiful architecture and saints. And as an artist, it's really beautiful, you know. So in many ways, I was like not impressed by the sense of the religion, but more by all the trappings of the religion type of thing, you know. And so to say that I became Catholic, I wasn't, but I was searching really to make sense of myself, of who I was really. And for the next 4 years, and for the next 4 years, my sister, my brother, and I were finally reunited. I mean, I had not seen my brother for 3 years, you know. And the first time I saw my brother, it was interesting. So I see him, my brother, and he says, "Bonjour, monsieur." I said, my heart broke. I said, "Je suis pas monsieur." I said, "I'm not Mr." I said, "I'm your brother." I said, "I'm not a sir," you know. And it was really heartbreaking. But I had an uncle, my mother's brother, who survived the war by hiding. And he's the one who took charge of my sister and my brother and I, but he could not afford, or we didn't have the place to have us with him, you know, 3 kids. So he arranged to have us sent to children's home. They didn't call them orphanages, but they were subsidized by American organizations. And so a bunch of kids who were like me, we didn't think of ourselves as orphans because we didn't know what happened to our parents. But in some ways, we knew things were not good, you know. But we never expressed anything. There was no counseling, by the way, no counseling. You were meant to just go on with your life, that's it. And figure out what you want to be. So, and you know, being a young person, a young teenager, you are a young teenager. I mean, no matter what. So, you kind of like to kid around. You like to have fun. So, you know, like sometimes you would think, you look at me, I'm telling a story, that life was always like so drab and morose and dark. It wasn't the case. It's not even pretending. I don't know if we pretended or not. I don't know what it was. It was the chemistry of being young and hopeful that things would change, basically. That's what it was. So I was very fortunate that, and also I have to add, is that that was the first time in my life that it was what they call a Jewish home. No, I didn't know anything about Jewishness, really. And then they were not Orthodox Jews or anything like that, wherever the people in charge of the home wanted the children to be aware they were Jewish. And a lot of kids were like me, basically came from parents who were not religious. So we had Shabbat, actually, they said, you know, you need to comb your hair, shine your shoes, white tablecloth, we'll have a prayer before you eat, it's important. And then they told us about, it just happened, it was near Pesach, I remember. So they said, well, you know, Pesach is a very important thing because it speaks about the Jewish people, you know, escaping from the Egyptians and all that. A little bit like your liberation by the Americans. So they wanted to know if there was somebody in the group who was an artist. So they asked me, well, first of all, they were renting an old mansion because we had so many children. So they said, we would like, so one of the teacher there, you know, counselor type of thing, said, we need to actually have something in Hebrew painted around what you call it, the dining room, which was the dining hall, at the top of the wall, in Hebrew, and he asked me to do it. So I had no idea what Hebrew letters were. So he said, well, here's a book, follow these letters, you know, and it was to me a mystery that this was actually Hebrew. I'd never seen before. So I'm painting this whole thing. It took me like a couple of weeks because there were large letters like that. For me, I wanted to know obviously what it was, what it meant. And it was Inema Tovu Malaim Shebet Achim Kenaha, which is a song and also tells about brotherhood being together. By painting that inspired me so much because to me I said, well, this is being a Jew, this is Jewish lore. Beautiful, elegant letters type of form, much more interesting than the other letters. This is gorgeous. And there was something about the art itself, the form, that gave me a spirit, and that sounds a little bit bizarre maybe, of feeling that I was really maybe a Jew after all, you know, and what it was to be a Jew. So the counselor who gave me the assignment was, oh, he's a kid, really interesting. And he said to me, by the way, he said, do you know anything about bar mitzvah, you know? I said, no, I don't know what that means. So he explained to me. I said, I'm already 14 and a half. I mean, past the age of bar mitzvah. I said, no. I said, you could be bar mitzvah any time in your life. So I said, do you mean I can be bar mitzvah? So he said, yes, you can. So I said, do you have to study for that? He said, yeah, yes, you do. I didn't know what I was getting into. But I was bar mitzvah. I was one of the first bar mitzvah in France after the war. I did not get no kind of presents. There was not all this big dancing. It was just that I felt honored to be able to do it. That was the prize, to become a Jew. Not in a religious sense, but to belong, a sense of belonging. That's what it was. And I did it really from the memory of my parents, thinking that themselves were Jews from Poland who probably had that sort of experience themselves, and in a way that would bring them closer to them. And so I was very proud to become a Jew, so to speak, you know. And this was the kind of culture that I had, and most of the people, most of the children home actually, were imbued with Zionism, because Israel was not a state anymore. I mean, 1948, it became a nation. So we were being prepared, all of us, for Aliyah, to go to Israel. So I learned some Hebrew, conversational Hebrew, By that time, I was lucky to get a scholarship in one of the best art schools in Paris. And also, I was admitted also there. And for the next 3 years, I went to art school. And I always had the dream of becoming a professional artist. Not particularly as a painter, but maybe some kind of commercial form of art, you know. And because of that, I did not go actually to Israel, or we tried to, because most of my friends that I knew from the homes, they were captured by the British Navy and incarcerated in Cyprus for about 16 months, beyond barbed wires, before they could be released. Imagine that, you know? So yeah, so that was the story basically. So I did go to art school, and then my uncle from my mother's side knew about his mother, lived in Brooklyn, and it was a really long process to get the visas and everything else, and we finally came to America. And I wasn't really that happy to come to America at that time because I've spent my life in France really, as an artist and with friends. So it was a little bit of a disruption in my life. I didn't know English either, not a word of English, no. But when I did, it was interesting. I love to read, so every day I would jot down 10 words, and I would memorize them. 10 words every day. So at the end of a month, I knew a lot of words. The problem was, I didn't know how to put them in a sentence. So it was a little bit of a tough process to learn English in a way, but now that I know English, I think, oh gosh, if I had to learn French, it'd be impossible mission. English is a lot easier than French, really. So here it is now, many years after. I have to say that I was blessed to meet the best. This is the way I view my life. Up to the age of, let's say, 24, it would be like almost like my life was like a black and white movie sequence. And then suddenly I met my wife, and everything was in Technicolor. She's the best thing that happened in my life. Unbeknownst to me and to her, we didn't know we were both Holocaust survivors. She had an amazing sense of humor, very pretty, graceful, funny, and it took us like a month to find out really that we were who we were, because we didn't talk about it. But we met the first time. It was not a real date. She came along with a friend. We spent like 2 hours singing French songs. You know. So this was our first time that we met. You know. So we married 63 years, and we still have an amazing time. You know. My wife is very funny. She's funnier than me, actually. You know. And she always reminds me of that. She said, "Don't you be funnier than me?" You know. She also has the last word all the time. But you know what? She's so feisty and wonderful. You would love her if you would meet her. She's so amazing. And she reminds me so much of my mother. So sometimes I say I married my mother. But so I'm very blessed that I met my wife. She's my life. She's everything. And I was very lucky in my career as an artist. I became a package designer just by accident, really. I went through the corporate life. I was actually an assistant at Colgate-Palmolive for a while, and then I became the director of packaging and design at Revlon for about 3 years. So I became a specialist in perfume, fragrance, and cosmetics. And then I started my own company, which was an international-based company. And I was a consultant for the major corporation in the US about actually perfumes, particularly perfumes. You know. So this has been my career path. And I'm also an illustrator. I've illustrated dozens of books, which I always love to draw. And today I still paint. I have still an art exhibit twice a year in Rockland County, where I live. I've been blessed with good health. I still play tennis 4 times a week, you know. And my wife, who is 87 years old, still teaches aerobics twice a week at the local JCC. She was actually a ballroom dancing instructor, so she had this wonderful grace, you know. And this is really something that you have in yourself, you know. And she has this kind of grace in her soul as well. And I've got 2 wonderful daughters, who are very successful. I mean, it's not to brag really, we all brag about our kids, it's kind of annoying sometimes, but I have to say that as a person who really comes through so many trials and tribulations, to have my own family, it's to me my best revenge from Hitler, in a way, to say that you could really have a family and really like we were not all dead from the events. And we can testify to the fact that today I live for my parents, really. I lived a good life for my parents. And this is the way I feel, the good life they did not have. So I thank you for listening. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. The only thing is, you'll have to have somebody tell me again, my hearing is good to a point, okay? So I'm not a young kid anymore, as you know, so.
What were the first 10 words? Do you remember?
Oh, that's the first 10 words. It's a good question, really. Let me see if I'm so smart and can remember that. No, not really. I just learned common words, really, not to sound stupid entirely. How do you do? And oh, I have to tell you a quick story, which is so funny. I'm on my way to New York. You know, we're on a ship for 12 days, 13 days. I don't know a word of English. And my sister learned some English, and she knew a little bit. And my cousin, to please me, gave me a little book, that small, with handy English, French-English expressions. Now, not American expression, English. Now, the English is a little different than American. So I'm looking at how to say, how do you do, you know? So, but in that book it says, I'm so delighted to make your acquaintance. I'm trying to learn those words, impossible, you know. It never come out right. So my sister looks at me, she said, yeah, I know what you're saying, but it doesn't sound like anything. You're hopeless. So we try, and all this anxiety about how am I going to say to the people I meet in New York. So we go on the west side of Manhattan, we get off the boat, and my relatives are there, so we come up. And they'll say, hi. That was it. You know? So from that day on, I appreciate English. It's such a wonderful language. It's a shortcut, you know? Not like the French. No. So, what another question? I'm sorry, I could not remember all of them.
Fine, thank you.
Yes.
How many grandchildren?
What?
How many grandchildren?
I have 6 grandchildren. 1 granddaughter and 5 grandsons, and already 1 great-granddaughter, and another one on the way, you know. So it is just wonderful, and yeah, it's another thing. Seeing, it's like almost an abstraction for me to know that, you know, it's like sometimes when you become married, you say, am I a married person? You try to define your role in life, you know? And here I'm saying, am I really a grandfather? You know? How did I get there? You know? But it's a wonderful family. My 2 daughters, I was going to say before, because I wanted to brag a little bit. One of my daughter is a very famous, actually, defense attorney in Boston, you know, criminal defense attorney. And she's quite known. And my other daughter was the CEO and chairman of a major advertising agency for about 10 years, Deutsche Advertising, you know, international. And now she has her own company. She stepped down as chairman. So I've got hugely talented daughters. But I think they always tell us, to my mother, to my wife and I, it's dangerous. It's very Freudian, actually. That they really will say, they said to us that they always thought we went through horrible things because we were so happy people. They could not imagine we could be happy without hiding things. And we said, you know, to really look at life in a certain way, it's a personal choice. It really is a personal choice. You have choices. Not too many, but you have choices. And that makes a difference. That makes a difference. I never wanted to be felt as a victim. I never thought I was. And I think that was a game changer in a way, because it gave me that strength to go forward. I just felt, okay, you went through a terrible deal, but so what? Some other people too, not the only one. So once you can accept that, then you can go forward. Yes?
As you and your siblings got older and understood more what happened, did you have anger towards your native country? And
Yeah.
how do you feel about the anti-Semitism that's
Yeah.
happening there today?
Yeah, excellent question. Today, I feel more sadness. That would be the word. You see, I don't want to be angry, because anger is self-defeating. You punish yourself when you're angry, really. I feel terrible sadness, really, about anti-Semitism, the history of it, particularly about the French people, because after all, I was from France. Many of them actually were anti-Semitic. I don't think because they really knew anyone that they hated, because of greed or other reason, or part of the culture, What today, even today, I still feel anger, some anger, about the French police, who got away really with crimes, and they'll never be punished for that, But then when you think of authorities, authoritarian regime and everything else, the police does the dirty work of the politician. That's what they do, So I still thinking back that, I still have to say there were some good people among all the bad people. And one of the things to me that I have to tell you, which is very important, and I forgot to tell, because I speak without notes, so forgive me if I'm meandering a little bit. Jeruchim and Bergen, the people who saved our lives. For years and years, I was in contact with their daughter. They died since then, it's been a long time, but I lost contact with her daughter because she had died and her husband, but somehow I rekindled a relationship with the son, with grandson, and then we became friends, and they came to the US and so on. And in the past, let's say 10 years, I was always thinking that I have a debt that I never repaid to Jeruchim and Bergen. I never paid that debt, never did. And it haunted me. And I know that there were righteous Gentiles, I don't know if you all know what it means, which are honored by Yad Vashem in Israel for people who save Jews, risking their lives in the process. But not many people can get that honor. You have to really have done quite a bit of saving people. And I always thought that because I only knew about me being saved, and I said my siblings and my friend, actually, that would that mean that's enough people to be saved to come up to that level? So I contacted Yad Vashem in France and in Israel, and they said, I forgot who said that, but some of you may know, if you save one person, you've saved the world. And so what I did is that I started the process. I had to fill out a questionnaire, tons of questions, and imagine going back 80 years. How do you find out all this documentation and everything else? But the fact that I've written a book, which is outside there, this was a book where I give a lot of information, actually. It was a very cathartic process for me to write the book. And somehow they accepted my request of honoring them. And 2 years ago, my wife and I went to Aix-en-Provence, that's near Marseille in southern France. The reason it was there because the grandson of the family lived in Marseille with his children. And all of us went there, and it was a delegation of the ambassador from Israel and very high dignitary from France who were there. It was really a big deal, So a medal and the thing was given to the grandson. And there were love speeches and everything else. And it was a very moving time, and I feel in some ways I get back something, not everything. You can never repay anybody ever for who saved your life. There's no way, you cannot do that. But at least I felt I repaid something, and my conscience feels better about it. Yes, ma'am.
What do you think of the
Well, you know, there's a French saying, I'm sure the same in English, plus que les choses changent, plus qu'elles sont les mêmes. Meaning more things change, more they're the same. And the truth is that anti-Semitism was always well and alive everywhere. Maybe dormant in some places. Look, it's a very handy scapegoat type of thing. And the Jews got a bad rap, I think, you know, with Christ, one of our Jews, you know, Jewish friend, you know. But you cannot rewrite history, and it's a short history of the world, if you think of it, you know, 2,000 years, you know. And I think that the thing which is always surprising is that Jews always manage to survive, and this is one of the things that a lot of people don't like, you know. They would like them to disappear, you know. And I don't have really a lot of answers about those things. I think that anti-Semitism has been around for a long time, and I think it's a very handy tool for authoritarian regimes to use to really demonizing Jews. And well, either they will say the Jews are the cause of all the problems, or the Jews are not nationalistic enough to belong, or it's a plot to, you know, all these insane statements, but there's still a validity with a lot of people. People do believe it, you know. I mean, the average Jewish people are not billionaire. There's a lot of high-profile billionaire, but that doesn't mean that all the Jews are very wealthy, you know. Some people get by, you know. So I don't really have a good answer for that unless you start talking about really some history and background, you know. Yes, sir. True, that's a lot.
One is, if you could tell us more about those two and a half years whatever in the barn, when you had careless shoes, no clothes,
Yeah.
proper clothing,
Yeah,
and you were really lived through very totalitarian conditions.
of course.
That's the first question. Second question would be, did it occur to you in your 20s and 30s, during those years, you should go back and see people who saved you?
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a good question about thinking about living in a barn, having no shoes and everything. And then the second question was, did you think of visiting the people there? Actually, I did not mention that, but my sister was actually housed with people on the farm. Just a wonderful woman. Her husband was a prisoner in Germany, she needed help. And she had a daughter and a son, about the age of my sister's siblings. We became very friendly with that farmer, and we had contact with her until she died, and we still have contact with the son. They came here, we go there, and all the people who actually came across my life, I still have contact with them. We invited them to come spend time with us, vacation, and in return, we went back to their homes, etc. Actually, what's really interesting is that about 6-7 years ago, there were some people in the village where I was. It was a small hamlet called Savigny-le-Vieux. They did some research about the war. There was an historian, a young guy, and they found out that in that village, there were about 30 Jewish children, young children, more like younger than me, actually, more 6, 7, 8 years old, who were actually hidden with farmers. And that was astonishing when you think of a very small hamlet where it would be, let's say, 500 people who live there, you know. The inordinate amount of Jewish children that were hidden there. So obviously this was selected as a place by the underground, you know. But, so the question arose is that, how was it possible that their name, they were in the register of the school, and their name would be like Berkowitz, or really Jewish names, you know, not like Durand, you know, like French, that no one would know, okay, these kids are Jewish, you know. But what was interesting is that the children of those farmers who became cops, they would have no interest to denounce their parents if they knew. So there was like a cover, in a way. It was really amazing. So anyway, we went to a commemoration. It was very interesting. The whole village was there. There was a plaque affixed to the wall of the church. There was a special event in the church itself. And all the villagers from all the towns around came, and everybody was outside. It was in May, I remember. It was like a banquet outside, you know. And the kids, the village kids sang songs about the Jewish, the Jewishness during the war, this kind of thing. It was so moving, really. So there were some corners of France where people actually did good deeds, really. Yes, sir.
For yourself and other people that you know survived, or research, do you know if there's anything ever been done on the personality of the individual and their ability to survive? Personality and philosophy of life. You mentioned a little bit about
I
your
think
philosophy.
that, you know, personality is one thing, because you are born with a certain personality. And I think throughout your life, you are pretty much who you are, a little bit worse or better. But you don't change that much. Philosophy is another thing. Okay, philosophy is a choice of looking at life and how you want to view it. Like, for instance, my two siblings, my sister and my brother. My brother was a very smart person, like a genius, you know. He actually is a very introverted individual. He's 82 years old, 7 years difference, but when he was young, 5 years old, separated from his mother and father, he really never knew my parents. So for him, there's like a whole vacuum in his life, which he never can really go back there. And I think this affected him. He's a very lovely person, it's just simply that he doesn't want to talk too much about that. And my sister, although she talks about the past, she's not as interested in the past as I am, which is nothing wrong with that, you know. For me, it was important that we find our roots. It was important, this and that. And I think it's like in every family. Yeah, some children are more interested in a family unit, or why we here or why not, than others. So it's not because I'm better than they are, you know, by any means. It's simply, I said, we have choices, that's all. So for me, I always feel that being, let's say with a group like you, telling my story is more honoring the memory of my parents. And that's really, I feel, you know, nice analysis. Thank you. So maybe I should sign some books.